scary stories. This happened a few months ago, but as I was reading through some of these stories, I thought I would share. I'm from the Bay Area in California, and I never learned to drive, so I took the public transport every day, pre-COVID. I know this story sounds a little out there, but if you have ever been on BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, you know all of the crazy types of people you can run into. This is where I first encountered a neckbeard. I'll call him Coffee Beard. I was sitting on the train on my way to the doctor's appointment. My boyfriend had agreed to meet up with me and kill time before it started, so we agreed to meet at the station. I usually stare out the windows and space out, but from the corner of my eye, I could see someone staring at me. He sat across the train car, was probably about 19, and looked like he hadn't showered in a month. He didn't match the stereotypical neckbeard look. He wasn't overweight and wasn't wearing a fedora, but his hair was greasy and he looked grimy. I brushed off the staring at first as I was sitting in front of a window, but any time I looked across the car, I could see him staring directly at me. I figured nothing would come of it, but when I got off at my stop, he followed and came directly up to me. He immediately told me I was beautiful and asked if I had a boyfriend. I said I did, and he asked for his name, obviously not believing in me. I told him my boyfriend's name and tried to keep walking down the stairs to the exit gates, but he followed. "Oh, your boyfriend's name was on my Starbucks cup this morning." I had no idea what he was talking about, so I just kept walking and hoped that he would leave me alone. He did not. As I walked down the stairs to the exit gates, I thought I had lost him, but when I saw him quickly rushing down the stairs after me, I was about to exit, and the stairs were above me, so he was looking down at me about 4 feet above me. "Can I get your number? You're a goddess." I was kinda surprised and have some issues about not being good at confrontation for fear of being rude. I'm working on it. So for some reason I decided to tell him no instead of just walking away. Finally, I got off of the exit gates and began to walk down the steps to the street. Halfway down, he appears at the top and starts yelling to talk to me again. He asks for my Snapchat. I tell him I don't use it and try to keep walking, but he continues to follow. Eventually, I end up giving him my Instagram just to get him to leave me alone. But he doesn't remember his account name, so he has me follow one of his friends instead. As soon as I get onto the street, I decide to walk a few blocks and hide out in a corner store in case he followed me again. I don't see him again that day. Unfollow his friend on Instagram and text my friends laughing about my first neckbeard encounter. When I met up with my boyfriend, I told him the full story as well. I figured that would be the end of Coffee Beard, but I was so very wrong. On Valentine's Day, me and my boyfriend decided to go into San Francisco and spend the day milling around and going to thrift stores. When it's time to go home, we walk to the nearest BART station. We called an Uber to the station since San Francisco is big and can be a little hard to navigate on foot. And I'm first out of the car since my boyfriend had to wait for the traffic to die down before getting out of the car. I'm a little ways down the block when I pause to wait for him near a street corner. I hear someone yelling, but it's San Francisco, so I assume it has nothing to do with me. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. I look at the person yelling, who's now motioning towards me, and there he is, Coffee Beard. My boyfriend, who Coffee Beard definitely didn't believe existed, catches up to me pretty quick Just as I finally recognize Coffeebeard as the creepy guy on Bart, I make some comment like, "Oh, you're the guy from Bart," so my boyfriend will know this is the creep who followed me. Coffeebeard tells me it's his birthday, so I say congratulations and turn my attention elsewhere, hoping he'll leave me alone. Obviously, we can see how great that had worked for me in the past, and once again he continues trying to talk to me. When that doesn't work, he tries to insult my boyfriend. I think he tried to criticize the style, which is ironic because it's one I share and one Coffeebeard had complimented me on in previous encounters. He tries to start a fight with my boyfriend before the light finally turned green and we were able to escape Coffeebeard once and for all. So this is a short but cringy story. I've been going paintballing with my friends at our regular field for a few months, and we have been able to recognize a bunch of other regulars. Well, this story comes from this post Saturday, where it was in the 90s. And with all of the activity, everyone was pretty hot. This is where we meet Paintball Beard. As we went into our next map, I noticed a heavyset guy that randomly appeared, and I shit you not, a trench coat and sweatpants. His mask goggles weren't fitting either, since his wispy neckbeard glistening in sweat was hanging out quite a bit, not to mention the stench permeating the air around him. Whatever I say to myself, to each is their own. Paintball is for everyone. Wrong. As the game starts, I notice Paintball Beard was on our side for Team Deathmatch, where he broke into what I assume was some type of anime run, overly exaggerated with his marker. Neckbeard then stumbles into cover. However, with his size, his crouch behind the barrier wasn't much cover for him, where I noticed he was pelted almost immediately in the side of the head. Naturally, everyone who plays knows once paintball breaks, you are out. But Paintball Beard began blind firing, while somewhat whimpering. The guy who shot him began yelling that he's out and to quit blind firing, since at this field you're only allowed to shoot what you can see. Paintball Beard proceeded to argue and whine that it's his first time and that it doesn't count. Now, had he been about 15 years younger, that'd be understandable, but an out is an out. Our team began to try to get him out of the way by trying to send him to the out-of-bounds waiting area. Paintball Beard then yelps, "Nobody ever listens to me. I know how good I am, and I'm not out." Mind you, he has 3 bright orange globs of paint oozing down the side of his head. The referee noticed what was going on and approached the Beard to remove him from the live match. "You Chads are all the same, never letting me try new things." The ref then calmly told him, "Everyone is welcome here, but you must follow the damn rules." Paintball Beard then turns around and lets out what I guess is supposed to be a growl, but was more of an awkward, angry, gurgling noise. Everyone seeing what was happening began to fall to the floor laughing at him. Paintball Beard thought it would be a great idea to take out his frustrations by shooting the laughing teammates in front of the referee before awkwardly trying to stammer away. The ref radioed the other refs standing in front of the map, where they were able to catch him and ban him. I'll be talking to you today about Dan, a man I met when I was an antisocial, self-hating, and bullied young kid. One day, I was at school, and I was wearing a Naruto shirt and waiting in the school's breakfast line. He was working the line, telling people when they could go in or not. And he said something about my shirt. I was all like, oh great, human contact. But I stood to the side anyways to talk to him about it because I was lonely and couldn't talk to anyone else about it. Surprisingly, we had a great chat about it, and I thought that we could be cool or something. After the first conversation, he and I talked a lot every morning, and eventually he found out that we had classes near each other, so he would wait at his classroom door after the bell rang and wait for me to get there, and he'd walk me to class. Slowly and slowly, he'd start getting friendlier and friendlier with me and more touchy-feely. I wasn't a big fan of being touched by people from past experiences, so I'd always ask him to not touch me, but he would get explosively angry at me when I did, so eventually I just stopped asking. He also would insist I give him a kiss on the cheek when he'd walk me to my class door. I was very against it, but again he'd get angry, and I didn't want to make him angry. He was the only friend I had at the time, and I didn't want to lose him, so I just slowly started to do it. Sometimes he'd print out song lyrics and pretend that he wrote them for me, but he chose songs like Pain from 3 Days Grace or other songs from Linkin Park that any cringe team would listen to. I didn't want him to get mad from me calling him out, so I just didn't say anything to him. The song lyrics progressed into poems and cringy love pictures you can find on Google if you look up love quotes. I knew I wasn't interested in him that way, but I didn't want to seem rude, so I just accepted it from him. When I realized he wasn't someone I wanted to be around, it started getting harder to go to school. He had walked me to my class and demanded a kiss on the cheek. I instinctively turned my head to give him a peck on the cheek to appease him, but he turned his head and put his hand behind mine and forced me to kiss him on the lips. After he was satisfied, he ran across the hall and into his own classroom. A girl from my first period saw and came up to me. She said, "Dude, that was so not cool. Are you okay?" I could say nothing. I looked at her and slowly started crying, but I wiped my tears, nodded at her, and ran into my classroom. I spent that period with my head down and went home early. I lied to my mom and told her that I was sick. After that, I started staying in my class after the first bell and waited for the second one, asked my teacher for a pass, and went to my next class. My teacher said he was getting tired of it and asked me what was happening. So I told him about my stalker, and he got the school involved. The staff were told to keep him away from me, and I had to start coming into school late, so I wasn't forced into the breakfast line that he'd still worked. The next year, he was expelled from the school for making threats of shooting up the whole school for not letting him see his precious queen. I think it was a Facebook post that someone reported, but I don't think it was about just me. Recently, I logged into an old Facebook from then and was going through old online messages when I saw that I had a message request from him. Now, mind you, I hadn't forgiven him for what he did to me, but I was willing to let it go if he had become a different person because people change, and it had been years. So I gave him my new Facebook I only have for Messenger, and I told him to message me when he felt like it. A few minutes later, he said hi, and I said hi back, but not even 5 texts in, and he started telling me about how suicidal he's been because no girl wanted to be with him. I thought, yeah, okay, whatever, and told him basically to get over it, and he's worth it, and blah blah blah, all the usual things you say in a time like that. But I was done with the conversation. I ended that, and we texted on and off from then. I normally only gave short answers and sent memes, and eventually I started dating my now boyfriend Ducky, and he introduced me to his sister Gold. Gold and I talked and got to know each other. and started to be good friends. Slowly, we start to bond over shared experiences and find out that she went to the same school and had a similar experience to me. And we talk more and we realize that it was the same guy who put us both through similar stuff and is the reason she moved on to online school. Well, one night about 2 weeks ago, we got super pumped in the middle of the night and decided that we should confront him. So that's exactly what we did. I put the three of us in a group chat and we started friendly at first, but we got right into it and started going off at him and confronting him about all of the pedo stuff he did to us when we were young. And he is just trying to defend himself, but he stood no chance against two angry 18-year-old girls and was soon defeated and left the group chat. So when I was around 17 and didn't have much friends and was in my last year of 6th form, I used to hang out at a game store where you can sit and play Yu-Gi-Oh, Smash, etc. And it was quite a nice community of people from my school and a safe place for nerds to hang out. Or so I thought. I was having a really rough day, and I believe I looked tired and kinda sad, so this guy came up to me. He was 6'2", really overweight, had the neck beard, and wore a trench coat. As many of you can guess, he smelled pretty bad too, but I thought it was rude to point it out. At the time, I lived on coffee, Monster, and rarely ate, as I was going through a lot at the time, with sofa surfing, being kicked out, and dealing with some health issues. I think he noticed I looked down, and he offered to buy me a coffee since he was getting one himself. I hesitantly accepted as he looked a lot older than me. He was 36, but I really needed the caffeine. We started having a chat, and he seemed like the only adult I could speak to. So, in a way, I guess he took advantage of my vulnerability. I told him about what was going on, and he gave me a hug, so nothing terrible so far. We had a few similar interests, so I gave him my Instagram. He spam commented on my pictures and put stuff like totally not thinking dirty thoughts, which threw me off. Out of curiosity, I looked at his profile, and it was videos of him talking about how women are thoughts and gamers rise up. He DM'd me on meeting up in my hometown after work, but to get by I had to work really late hours, so I apologized, saying I was really busy. Days later, he showed up to the game shop with a small box, and he handed it over. I looked inside, and it was a gold necklace with my name engraved on it. On how extravagant his gift was, as I wasn't used to people buying me stuff. As it felt like I owed him something, I gave him a hug to say I was so thankful, and he started to get a little touchy-feely and ended up tickling me a lot despite me telling him to stop. I never told him where I worked or what even I did, but the weekend after, whilst I was cleaning tables, I found him sitting there staring at me. I came over and said hi, but he claimed that the shop owner told him where I worked, which freaked me out a little. He asked to hang out on my break, but my excuse was my break is only 10 minutes and I have stuff to do. I finished really late, 2 a.m., and found him standing outside the pub, brandishing a katana. I did not know if it was fake or not, and I was about to call security, but he was asking if I'm enjoying my necklace, and I felt pretty bad, and he offered to walk me home. I politely declined, and I called a taxi, as my friend's house where I was staying was nearby. Apart from him coming into the shop and me ghosting his DMs, we didn't really talk for several weeks, and I ended up having a boyfriend at the time. We'll call him Quinn. Since I was squatting at his house at the time, with some of his friends, I didn't really come into the game shop as much. I told Quinn about the whole ordeal with Philip, and I was told it was better if I blocked him. Fast forward to midnight at Quinn's place, I heard a knock at the door. Assuming it was one of his friends, I put on his dressing gown and unlocked it. To my horror, it was Philip. I have no idea how he found out the address or got here, but there he was, with nothing but anger in his eyes and roses in his hands. I immediately slammed and locked the door and called 911. The people at the game shop found out, and he was banned from ever going there again.
I'm a girl that just got out of a really bad breakup from my now ex, and I was looking on Tinder to try to find someone new to hang out with. I don't have any friends since I just moved out of state before this bad relationship started. I didn't want to jump into a real relationship right away. I wanted to take things slow. So I found this guy on Tinder that heard me out while telling him my story. He was very attentive and really tried to make me feel better. We talked for a while and I started to like him, but I wasn't going to give in just like that. He never asked me to, only wanted to help out. But I did talk about meeting up with him and becoming friends. I believe that's what you're supposed to do before you date someone, is become friends with him first. That's not what I did with the previous guy. He almost kind of sort of forced me into a relationship with him, but it was quite easy to get rid of him since I didn't live with him. So this guy talked to me about everything under the sun, and wasn't one of those people who like to reply to a massive paragraph with, or oh. Big upgrade from the last guy because that's what he would do to me. So I decided I was going to meet this guy after a while, and just try to make friends, so that's what we did. I met him at the local mall that we had nearby between the two of us, and we just kind of looked around and did mall things together. It was actually really nice, and I had a good time, and he seemed to have all the same interests, so that felt good actually. I started to get hungry while on our little mall hangout, so we went to the food court and we got some Panda Express. The first red flag though was that he refused to let me pay for my own meal. I thought this was kind of strange since we weren't dating, and this was all just to be friends for now. I thought in the back of my mind that he might have thought that he was just being nice, but I didn't want him to be nice like that. I let him pay for the meal and I didn't argue about it and didn't say much on it. It would have been rude to make a fuss over something so small and so stupid, but I felt like I kind of took something from him. I didn't ask for it, he offered, so in the end it was okay. The second red flag that validated the first red flag was in fact a red flag, was that he asked me so soon to come back to his place. He was still very attentive and very nice to me, so I obliged. I ignored both red flags and drove to his place after him. I didn't see any harm in it. Once we got to his house is when the red flags were put away, and he brought out the cannons. Everything made sense to me when I walked into his house and started piecing everything together. The first thing he did when he walked into his house was he demanded I take his shoes off, as he did. I did this, and he took me by the hand and walked past the kitchen looking over his shoulder at, I'm guessing it was his mom. She was in there cooking something. She did notice us and said hi to us. He became very annoyed with her that she wanted to talk and be friendly. By the way, I need to mention that we were both adults in our late 20s. As his mother tried her very best to be friendly, he kept trying to pull me away and told her to shut up. She never once lost that soft smile that she had, and finally told us to go have fun, that she won't hold us up anymore. I'd love to talk to her more, but he kind of ruined that. So up to his room on the top floor of the house we went. When we got in there, it smelled terrible. Like, it was just terrible. There were dirty things lying about all over the floor, and what I'm pretty sure was socks that could stand up on their own. There were posters of anime girls all over the walls, and half of them were in pretty suggestive poses and clothing. The centerpiece for the entire room was some crappy looking desktop computer that had more anime girls on it. And then, I saw it. I saw the final red flag, and this is what made me look for an escape. I didn't see it at first because he had them in a cutout in the wall, but there was a bunch of My Little Pony figurines on a stackable glass shelf that looked like it was meticulously placed, that he had spent a lot of time on organizing it. What made me cringe was the fact that when he saw that I noticed that, he called it his pony shrine, and was very proud of it. No wonder he kept calling me Milady. He then pulled something out of the closet in a feeble attempt to, I guess, woo me. He pulled it out so I could see what it was. It was a fully outfitted pony costume that he said he wears all the time. I'm not one to judge. I like furries and stuff like that. They're genuinely cool people. But I was considering this guy for a date, and this is what I stepped into. It wasn't even the fact that he liked all this stuff. It was the environment and the actions together. He told his very wonderful mother to shut up, and as she was just trying to be nice. He's a disgusting pig of a person that can't clean up even though he spends most of his time in his room, and I can tell. I told him that I needed to go, and I'd see him some other time after pretending to receive a phone call from a friend in need. So I left in a hurry, making damn sure I thanked his mom for being so nice, and letting her know not to let him tell her to shut up, and I left. He could have been a great boyfriend later on if he wasn't, but he was just too gross. It was kind of scary at first because I thought he was going to take me upstairs and rip my clothes off. But he didn't, and only wanted to show me what a brony he was. After all that, I got back on Tinder, and I messaged and dated a lot of guys. But you'd be surprised of how many very mentally unstable people are on there. I did eventually find the right guy, and we're still dating. We've been dating for a few years now, and it's actually going really awesome. I just had to go through some pretty strange weirdos before I found the right one.